Freezing temperatures occurred this morning, Tuesday, January 27th, all the way down to the Gulf of America coast. And you can see that we saw a lot of temperatures in the single digits and teens in quite a few areas. Of course, snow continues to be on the ground across a big part of the region from West Texas and parts of Kansas through Oklahoma and the Midwest, the lower Midwest in particular, off to the northeastern states. And that's one of the reasons for the cold air. But you know what we have found in years past when we're in these northwesterly flow patterns aloft, that if you've got significant snow across the southern plains and the mid-south region, you tend to get a lot of freezes occurring on the Gulf of America coast and eventually into Florida. And indeed, that was the case here this morning. We did see freezes occurring in both South Texas and also in Louisiana. South Texas temperatures this morning dropped into the upper teens. That 49 you see there in South Texas is not correct. So that is erroneous. But anyway, you can see that the temperatures were certainly upper teens through the 20s, even saw some light freezes in northeastern Mexico. And all of this occurred in areas that produce all kinds of fruits and vegetables, including citrus and sugarcane. And most likely, this situation has probably brought on some damage. Now, some of the producers in this region certainly were probably irrigating overnight, trying to keep ice on their plants to keep them viable and not lose much production. But some of these temperatures were pretty cold. Now, most of the key sugarcane and citrus producing areas are near the lower Rio Grande Valley in the far southern tip of Texas. And the temperatures this morning were not low enough in that region to cause any reason for us to expect any kind of serious permanent damage being done. Minor production areas farther to the north, though, not just talking about sugarcane and citrus, but also fruits and vegetables, the damage potential would have been higher. Now, what makes this particular event more significant than others is that the fact that, with the exception of January 12th and 13th, there has been a steady diet of 70 and 80-degree Fahrenheit temperatures in this region the entire month. The 12th and 13th, the afternoon temperatures were in the 50s and 60s, but those were the only two cool days. And the freezes that occurred yesterday and this morning in parts of Texas were the first of the season. And this morning's cold in South Texas and the Rio Grande Valley, including northeastern Mexico, was the first of the year. And so there was probably some impact. And the reason for bringing this a little bit more to light is just because it has been so warm for such a long period of time. Louisiana has not been nearly as warm as Texas. Louisiana has had at least 4 and maybe 5 other freeze events that have occurred this year. And so the impact is much lighter on the sugarcane production areas. And if you're interested in where the sugarcane is produced in Louisiana, this is a good map for that. Most of the concentrated high volume production areas are near the Gulf Coast. So mostly across this particular area would be the region that is most productive. Well, those temperatures there were down into the lower 20s this morning. This was the coldest bout of freezes that southern Louisiana has endured this season so far. But because there have been other bouts of cold in Louisiana that have nipped this crop, the crop is not nearly as far advanced as it might be in Texas. And the crop will probably be able to recover a little bit easier because it actually has hardened just a little bit against some of the cold because of the previous bouts of it. With that said, though, temperatures getting down to the lower 20s does tend to burn leaf mass fairly significantly. So a lot of browning on the tips of the plant has probably occurred as a result of this freeze this morning. What farmers will typically do after there is a notable amount of damage done to the leaf mass of the sugarcane is they'll come along and they'll clip all that burned leaf mass off so the plant has an opportunity to recover a little bit quicker. Now, what both Texas and Louisiana need is a wet and mild temperature and rainfall pattern to occur as we go forward through late winter and spring. Damaged crops need a time to recover. And if we suddenly throw them into a hot, dry environment, the stress on the damage will be much higher and the crops will not perform well later in the year. But if it is wet and cool during the late winter and spring, after the damage has occurred, the crop can recover, and it has in the past. A quick comment: last year at this time, or around this time, we did see temperatures drop into the single digits in southern Louisiana, but it occurred after there were some significant snow accumulations that protected the sugarcane crop. This is a different situation. There's no snow on the ground here. There was some icing that occurred for a little while, but I think most of that was lost with yesterday's high temperatures. Now, we are going to expect to see the crop maybe respond a little bit more harshly to this year's freezes, but it still has complete opportunity to recover fairly well if, again, it is wet and mild after this freeze event. One last thing that I wanted to show you here was the upper air wind flow pattern for North America. This is the whole cause for all the cold air. All this cold air follows the lines here. So when you see these deep troughs of low pressure over the eastern part of North America, the source air is coming out of northern Canada. And that's the reason why we get all this cold air coming southward. I want you to just kind of watch this loop a little bit, because there's some leftover cold air that is in parts of Ontario and Manitoba, along with the coolness that's still in the southern parts of the United States. This is going to be on Thursday going into Friday. And watch what happens here as the cold air comes right down into the southeastern corner of the United States. What this is going to do is this is going to bring yet another round of cold air into the central Gulf of America coastal region, Louisiana, and eventually into Florida. And these both these areas will end up with another significant freeze as we get to the end of the coming weekend and the early part of next week, and it should be closely monitored. This time, Florida will see temperatures colder than any other event, and we will probably see some harder freezes take place. Irrigation systems will be used to protect the citrus crop and the sugarcane there, but a close watch on the situation is going to be warranted. So again, starting late in the weekend and actually lasting into the first half of next week, there will be a risk of some damaging cold in citrus and sugarcane areas of Florida. Not a sure thing, but if this forecast map is verifying, that is where we'll be. This is meteorologist Drew Lerner.